Well, the speculation about the final roster is over, with My Hero All's Justice announcing that they are done with the base roster for the game, and this is what the launch roster is going to be, unless we get a Sparking Zero situation where they trick us. But they said this is the launch roster, which gives us a final roster of 68 characters with a few cuts and things like that, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. What does this roster show about the game in the future, like future DLC content, how far the story will cover, and just what can we expect from this game, man. But even with some of these cuts to the roster and some things that maybe some people aren't happy about, I think this game still has a positive chance to make a good impact on the community that plays it, and we're going to talk about all those things today.
Bring it on, little Suzuki. You want to see what true resolve is? I'll show you.
So if we look at the game, like I said, man, the final roster is going to be 68 characters. Right now, they turned 3 Shigarakis into only 2, so basically we're missing one version of Shigaraki, which is the one where you have the hands on. That's now turning into a Rising. We're also losing one version of Overhaul, with them turning his Awakening basically into a Rising. So now there's only one version of Overhaul, unless we do see something later on, but I don't think so, since in one of the websites, it actually showed like a GIF of him actually turning into the Rising. Now, all the other characters from the previous games are there, so we're not missing anybody from One's Justice 2, but some of the characters missing is actually going to have a chance of affecting the story, and I do think this company has a trend of how they handle certain characters not being actually playable in the game, but still using them in the story, which we did see in Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Clash. We'll talk about that. But as far as like some characters that we just missed in general from this roster, of course we know people like Hound Dog, Ectoplasm, Snipe, Mount Lady, which I think maybe is not in here just for some technical standpoints, not knowing how to implement her. But if there was any My Hero game where they would put Mount Lady in it, it would be this one, because they could implement her growth just by using Rising. Of course Cementos, but the 3 characters that probably are the most head scratching that not in this game because of how much of a big role they play in some arcs that are not covered, it is Redestro, Spinner, and also Star and Stripe, which I think might be in the similar category of Mount Lady, of them maybe just not knowing how to implement Star and Stripe's new order. But when we look at the past games and the story mode of the past games, it covered up to the end of the Shie Hassaikai arc, which was basically the arc that had Overhaul in it. And now in the new game, we're basically going to be missing, because they said that it's only going to cover from the final battle. And for what it looks like, the final battle is only going to be covering from when Iomo betrays UA, which means that we're going to be missing the Paranormal Liberation War arc, also My Villain Academia, also the Class 1A versus Class 1B, and also just some of the other things with the agencies and the internships they did with the Pro Heroes. With some of these things, we don't need a story mode, but I do think the Paranormal Liberation War and My Villain Academia would have been a good thing to actually have in the story mode. And if we are missing these things, what will the story mode actually look like? And I do think that there are some ways that they can still find a way to implement some of these old battles, and it's going to be from the game mode, which is Archives battles. They actually did mention that this is going to have some unique experiences that are only in this game mode, so there is a chance that they could put like a Redestro boss battle with Shigaraki in this mode, and maybe just some other things that we're missing from some of these arcs. But we have seen this happen, not necessarily in a different game mode, but Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Clash did put characters like actual Soido Geto and also like Final Awakened form of Mahito. They put these only in the story mode, and they just ended up being story mode bosses only. Now, while I know this won't make some people happy, if this game ends up being successful, they can use these models and to make some tweaks to some of these moves to eventually make them characters. It can be a trial run kind of if they're not too sure about batting into the game, but realistically I think a lot of these characters probably will be in the first DLC pass, which we will talk about. But speaking about DLC, there is also the chance of My Hero All's Justice doing free DLC. Some characters could come free, like we're already getting All for One Chaos and also Zuko Midoriya the Rising version. They could follow in the steps of JJK and also announce some more free DLCs, maybe for characters that they don't want to make their audience pay for, maybe like some people from 1B. I think some of those characters you could maybe make free and not make them pay DLC. But when we look at what the Season 1 pass realistically is going to look like, now that we have the final roster, I have a pretty good idea that we're probably going to get, of the 5 characters, probably Spinner and Redestro for sure. And when it comes to Star and Stripe, and also Mount Lady. I think that just depends on if they can find a way to implement these characters with their unique skills that they have. If they can't find a way to implement them, then I think it's just going to be Redestro, Spinner. I think we could probably get Cementos, and maybe they leave 2 slots for Vigilantes, since that will be airing, man. Let me know in the comments, what are your actual predictions for Season 1 Pass, and how are you feeling about how they're actually handling some of the things with this game now that we have the final roster, and now that we're kind of starting to get a little bit of the feeling that there's going to be a lot of the story mode that's going to be cut out. It's when we actually looked at it, I think the last story mode from One's Justice 2 was only like 4 to 5 hours, and it really only covered from, I think, up from the Hero Festival up until the end of Season 4. So it wasn't really that long, and it's seeming like this game is not going to be that long with the story mode as well. They're mainly going to have it in the Archives battle. It seems like a lot of their budget maybe went towards the stuff with the team up missions and allowing you to have the free roam over just trying to give you like a fully animated story from the end of Season 4 all the way to the end of the show. Y'all can let me know in the comments how y'all feel about that, especially if you're going to be interacting with this mode. How do you feel about how they decided to, looks like, handle the game? Now, of course, this isn't confirmed, not 100% confirmed, but the way things are looking, it does look like this is what the game is going to be, and it does look like these are where the resources are going to be going and what we're going to be getting, man. But yeah, let me know in the comments how I feel about this. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn the bell, do all those nice things, and let me know who you think is going to be coming to the game for Season Pass 1, now that we know the full roster is 68 characters, man. But hope y'all enjoyed this, and I will see y'all in the next one. We up.